Hey everyone, got another Hans Christian Andersen classic fairy tale today, and that's going to be The Wild Swans. Okay, so let's begin. In a country by the sea, there once lived a king. He had 11 sons and daughters, the beautiful Eliza, and also a new wife who was a wicked woman. Hated the children from the start. Look at that face. Can't trust that face. She told such evil lies about the 11 sons that at last the king banished them from his kingdom. The queen put a spell on the sons. They turned into great wild swans and flew out of the palace and away over the sea. The wicked queen told the king lies about Eliza too. So Eliza was sent away to live in a poor cottage with a peasant and his wife. Look at that face. Years later, the king wanted to see Eliza. When she came, the queen was so filled with hatred that she commanded 3 toads to make Eliza ugly, stupid, and evil. She put the toads into Eliza's bath. But when Eliza came to have her bath, the toads had no power over her goodness. They turned into roses. So the queen tangled Eliza's hair and put dirt on her face. Then she sent her to see the king. He did not know his own daughter, and he ordered her to leave the palace and never come back. Poor Eliza wandered into a forest. There, a kind old woman told her that she had seen 11 wild swans on a lake. "They must be my brothers," cried Eliza, and she ran to find them. She saw the swans, with crowns upon their heads, and suddenly, as darkness fell, the swans became her old dear brothers. The queen's spell had turned them into swans by day, but by night they turned back into princes. Eliza hugged them all with joy. Next morning they became swans again. They placed Eliza in a sheet and flew with her across the sea. They landed in a faraway country, and Eliza went into a cave to rest. She prayed that she might find a way to free her brothers from the spell. She had fallen asleep. A fairy came and spoke with her. "Pick some nettles and make 11 shirts with them. Throw them over the swans, and the spell will be broken. But remember this, you must not speak one word until then, or your brothers will die." The next morning, Eliza began her work. She went out to gather the nettles, and soon her hands and arms were covered with blisters. Then she began to make the shirts. She did not mind the pain, because it was to save her brothers. That night they asked her what she was doing, but she remained silent. The youngest brother wept to see this. His tears fell on her hands, and the blisters vanished. Next day, hunting horns sounded, and the king of that country rode up on his horse, with his horsemen. He was enchanted by the lovely Eliza and wanted her for his bride. So he took her on his horse and rode back to the palace. Eliza remained silent all the while. Everyone at the palace thought that she was beautiful, except for one wicked minister. That's how you know. That's the face. "She's a witch," he said. Eliza wept because now she could not finish making the shirts. The king felt sorry for her and thought that perhaps she missed her work. So he ordered that her shirts and nettles be brought to her from the cave to the palace. Eliza smiled for the first time and loved the king for his goodness. Every night she worked hard to finish the shirts. When there were only 3 left to make, she ran out of nettles. So in secret she went out to gather more. She went to an old churchyard where it was said that only witches lived. The wicked minister saw her. Reet, reet, reet. She is a witch, he told the king. She must go to the stake and burn. The king was very sad, but had to agree. So Eliza was flung into prison, and she did not speak one word. In prison, she worked day and night, and 10 shirts were ready when she was taken in cart to the stake. Even then, she was still at work. She was still working. She had just finished the last shirt when 11 swans came flying toward her. As she laid in the stake, she threw the shirts over the swans. One by one, 11 handsome princes stood there. The spell had been broken at last, and the wooden stake blossomed with red roses. Eliza could now speak, and told her story. The king was overjoyed and clasped her to his heart. People cheered, birds flew in the air above, and the church bells rang out. All right, well, that's the story. Never-ending devotion. I enjoyed reading that to you guys. So if you liked the reading and you'd like me to do some more, feel free to comment, leave me a like, or subscribe. Anyway, have a good one.